when there are issues at the workplace or at your tenancy, but also to join for our mission of just, safe, habitable and affordable housing for each and every person in our communities, and for dignified and well-paid jobs in our communities. Before we go to our Q&A and whether you have any issues you want to speak up, we want to talk about specifically the rental sector. The rental sector in Malta and common issues we see, and to inform you maybe about these issues that you might be having as well. The biggest one that we see is when it comes to utility bills and arms, is paying for electricity and water. In order to pay for electricity and water, this should not be added to your rent every single month. This should only be paid after the landlord has provided you with bills and the official proof of what you have to pay. A lot of time we are seeing every single person having to pay 50, 30, even 100 euros in some time in addition to your rent before you've even seen any copy of your bills. This is illegal, and if anyone is experiencing, contact us to see how we can assist to do this. When it comes to deposits as well, after you leave, we see a big issue in deposits not being returned. There is a process that when the tenant wants to leave that must be followed to get your deposit back. But especially if the landlord is asking you to leave, then the deposit must be returned as long as the place was left clean and as you found it. The final is rent increases. There is very much often that we see, something that we see is a landlord just messaging you. Your contract is going to get renewed this month. Give me an additional 100 euro. Give me an additional 50 euro. This is your new rent. This cannot be done in a matter of just months or weeks. If you receive messages like this, it is probably an illegal rent increase. In order for a rent increase to be legal, the landlord has to inform at least 3 months before, and there is a process that they have to follow. And we see that it is often not being followed. So feel free to reach out if you have any issues. We can have this Q&A to speak if there are any issues currently and if anyone wants to talk about this. But also make sure to join, not only for yourself, but for every person in the communities, to ensure about these missions, to make sure that everyone can have affordable and stable housing in this community, and everyone can have dignified jobs and dignified employment. So if anyone has any comments, any issues they have personally faced or heard, we can discuss and let us know.
Anyone that can bring the microphone over? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, so I noticed something strange. The first place I was staying, the time I came to Malta newly. So I'm a student, so the landlord failed to give me 1-year contract as demanded by Identita. So after he wasted my time, I had to leave his house. I left his house around December, although something happened, we kind of balanced the deposit, but the money I paid him on that December, he promised to give me half of the money, but he didn't again. But I didn't bother. Now I left his house second week of December 2024. Now, just 3 or 4 days ago, I got an email from Housing Authority registering me on that same house address. And the strange thing there is that the date is September 2026 to March 2027. And Housing Authority vetted and approved it. It got me worried. And I replied their mail telling them that I'm no longer staying in this particular address I left there December last year, and this is August 2025. You are approving a housing contract for me that is even post-dated for 2026, 2026. I don't understand the thing, and they've not replied up till now.
These kind of issues, let's start maybe with the contract itself. So we find as well that the housing authority does not check the contracts. They are presented to them, they check the dates, they check the rent, and that's it. We often find that a lot of contracts have illegal stuff in it. For example, as I said, this of the utility bills. Other clauses have stuff, other contracts have clauses that allow the landlord to kick you out because you don't pay, because the rent was paid late, for example, or other various illegal stuff that we've seen. From our estimation, over half of the contracts in this country have illegal clauses of rent. Specifically to your case, there is, we can talk a bit after, there is a portal where you can see the contracts that are registered straight in your name, and you can withdraw from that contract right there. So we can do it online, and you can inform the housing authority right there. So it is manageable, but yes, as you said, the housing authority are just accepting every single thing that comes their way, and not really vetting contracts when it comes to this stuff.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Mike, I just needed clarifications on two issues. The first being the issue of utility bills. There are some landlords who specified a particular amount to be paid on a monthly basis to them for utility bills, and for like maybe 2 months, there is no kind of a system to actually know how much you are consuming. That is one question. The second one I will need to clarify is with regards to maintenance fees. I've seen some contract agreement where the landlord specifies a particular amount to be deducted from the deposit when you are living as maintenance fees. Please, could you please shed more light on this?
Of course. Let's start with the fees for the utilities. As I said, these should not be being paid in advance. I know a lot of contracts have that. But as you said, when there are contracts like this, there is no mechanism to know whether what is being consumed and whether what the landlord is saying is true or not. So that is why we always suggest, as the law says, to only pay once the copy of the bill is provided. You can see the official copy. You can see then exactly how much is being consumed, and they give you also the average you are consuming per day. So we have a system ourselves internally, how we notify the landlord that this is illegal and how we will move on forward, and then discuss with the landlord like that. Regarding the maintenance fees, it is similar. It depends on what kind of maintenance fees they are saying, right? Because maintenance fees specifically to fix something in your house, right? If there is a light bulb that went, if there is the plumbing that has an issue, he cannot charge you per month for these stuff, whether or not they have been occurred or not. What can be charged is maintenance fees of the common areas, of the condominiums, where, for example, the painting of the condominiums, stuff like this. That can be charged every month, but the same thing. He has to show you the agreement of the block, right, which is never done, and how much he is paying for this amount. We've seen contracts, and we are challenging them, that are paying €300 per month for the condominium and for the maintenance fees. I don't pay that per year in my condominium, let alone per month. What is being done oftentimes when in this is landlords trying to evade the tax, right? Instead of having a €700 rent, they tell you, oh, €400 rent and €200 maintenance fees and €100 bills, so that they pay less tax. and stuff like. But most of them are illegal, and not only illegal, the money is also recoverable. So if this is occurring, especially, most of this money, especially if the maintenance fees is of your place and not of the common areas, that would be money that is recoverable, and what the landlord is doing is illegal. Okay.
A caveat to that question.
Of course.
And the caveat is that because of ignorance, especially like those who are just coming in, the contract has already been signed, that have already stipulated some of those rules, and out of not knowing what is obtainable, you have actually signed. So is there any over window to override, or since you already signed?
The law is very clear that what is signed would be deemed null. So if there is illegal stuff in the contract, that illegal stuff is not accepted. It's not valid by law. So for example, this one specifically, where it comes to arms or maintenance, they are deemed null and void irrespective of what is signed. The same thing with clauses that say the landlord can just kick you out. They would not be valid, and that part of the contract can be like annulled, even if it's already signed.
Praise God. My question is this: how do you know, or how do you check if what you have been asked to pay is arbitrary? Like, for instance, now if you are asked to pay maybe 300 euro or 400 maybe for a best place or whatever, how do you check against whether that is rather too high to what you are enjoying, maybe the facility or whatever? Thank you.
So in Malta, let's start with a bit of the system of it, how it works. So there isn't a system where it tells you how much you should pay or how much this should be rented. So the way it works is every person comes to a contract and they decide between them what the rent should be. The rent isn't imposed by the government, for example, where it says this place in this locality should be rented out for this much. It is freely agreeable between the two parties, between the tenant and the landlord. But the housing authority recently has issued averages of 1-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, or 3-bedroom apartments in each locality, and how much the average is the average rent is. For a 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Vena, for example, you can find out how much that is. Or a 1-bedroom apartment in St. Paul's Bay, you can find out the average of that is, and then you can see the higher end and the lower end as well. So we can send you the link, we can share it. It is on the Housing Authority website, and there is these averages over there.
It's a common knowledge in amongst TCNs that we oftentimes don't deal with landlords directly. You deal with maybe, do I say, mini landlords? I call them mini landlords in that one in particular individual takes the apartment, maybe 2-3 bedrooms, and then that individual sublets it out to. So what do you do in a situation whereby you are being maltreated by these so-called mini landlords? Does this also cover all these things we are saying? Does it affect them?
So that is obviously a bit more complex in the way that if he loses the apartment, there's a gray area of what happens to you. But it is the same. In that case, whoever you sign the contract with is your landlord. So the same thing applies there and there. So it's the same things apply throughout.
Let me shed more light to that question. I'm renting an apartment from you. I'm not the landlord, but I happen to know the place and everything. And he needs an apartment, and I blocked that communication between him and the landlord. So I'm like a middleman. And now I'm the one telling him the price, and he's paying me. I've never even seen the landlord for once, you know. Is that right? And it gets to a point whereby even some are being threatened. So who is the owner of the apartment?
That is a bit different, yes. So that is a bit different, what happens there. And it depends on if you signed anything between you. It depends on a number of factors. But let's say you just have a guest. Let's say he's treating you, even though he is paying, he has a guest, and I never saw him as the landlord. I never seen the new person. So depending on whether you have paid, you have a contract with him or not, makes that whether it changes whether he can stay or not, right? So whether it is considered as subletting, which is not allowed unless it is specifically written in the contract that we have. So if that is not allowed, his contract, his place is at risk. So there is a lot of complications there. But from your end, you could also be in trouble because you did not inform the landlord that you have people staying over at the price. So we always ask to discuss it, because to speak up and talk to us on it, because there's a lot of stipulations that could occur there, whether something is legal or not. So it gets a bit complicated for both parties, for the landlord, for the person originally renting, and for the person living there but has never talked to the landlord. It gets a bit complicated there, yes.
Hi, good morning. My question is pertaining to the electricity and water bills. I would like to understand how, as tenants, we can make sure that we are on the correct tariff. The reason I'm asking this question is because I am renting a place which is my main residence, but it's the secondary or a secondary residence to my landlord. And I know that there is a differentiation in tariffs, and I don't want to be paying more expensive than I should.
Very good question. And it is firstly the landlord's obligation to make sure that it is on the right tariff, and any extra expenses that are on the bill has to be incurred by the landlord and not yourself. So we often do the calculations ourselves. If a tenant is not on the right tariff, we help them calculate what would they have paid if it was on the right tariff, and inform the landlord of the difference that he would have to pay, or they would have to pay. In fact, we have cases where we got in, I think, over thousands of euros specifically on this, because they were on the wrong tariff, because the amounts can be quite different. In that case, there is a form of arms which the landlord and yourself have to fill. You need to provide them with your ID and your information, and the landlord the same thing, to make sure that there is on the right tariff. But again, it is of the obligation of the landlord to do it, but obviously we highly recommend that it is done immediately when you move in.
Yeah, my own question is, how do we join this union? And is there any membership fee? That's number one. Number two, we know the situation in Malta. You find an apartment and the landlord says, this is what I want. I want you to be paying your electricity and water with the rent. How do you deal with this situation? And this is the chance you have to have a roof over your head.
Very good question. I'll start with the final question. As I said, and in some cases we know the issues with documentation, we know the issues and the tight deadlines that a lot of people have to find a contract. And as I said, luckily, the way the law is written, even though the contract may have illegal clauses written in it, they are not enforceable. So even if you do sign that contract, most of it, these parts that are illegal, cannot be enforced by the landlord, right? Yes, maybe he wants that. Fine, we are in a tight situation and maybe we do end up having to sign that contract. But then we realize, once we're in there, that place is there for 1 year, most of the time, that it's yours. The landlord cannot just kick you out of it. And then the situation changes, right? Those clauses are still illegal and then would be dropped, even though it is what you had agreed upon. To join, yes. So we can join online. It's Solidarieta, SOLIDARJ, solidarieta.org. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media you use. And yes, there is a membership fee. Every person pays around €10 a month. That money is then used for subsidization of legal funds, of legal fees if anyone needs. It goes also to workers who might be struggling to if they are on strike or if they are protesting at the place of work, but also to help run the organization, right? So all that money goes, it is a non-profit organization, all that money goes back into helping the members, and the members ultimately also have a say in what that money is used for. So every year we have a budget that is presented and voted upon by the members when it comes to where they would like the money to go, right? Which sections, which do they prefer us to focus more on outreach? Would they prefer us to focus more on legal assistance? And that is decided upon by the members themselves. As I said, every person pays a minimum of €10 a month or annually every year. And you can do it online or we can meet and send you the links on how it is done. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. There is the contact details as well. It can be found on the website. The number is 999810787. But I thought it was there on the leaflet. Yes, it is down there. There's 2 numbers that people can call or email or whatever you prefer.
Thank you. I have a question about deposits. So I understand, from my understanding, is that there's a general rule about the number of years you sign on your contracts and the amount you have to stay in the place before you can get your deposit back. Does that apply to every case? And also, what is exactly deductible from deposits? I've seen a case where the landlord was deducting some spoons and cups prices from the, whereas I think some things are not supposed to be deducted from deposits.
So the deposit, as you correctly said, depending on the length of the contract, there is a minimum period of time that you have to stay in the apartment. So for example, for a 1-year contract, it is 6 months. For a 3-year contract, it is up to a year. So if you leave before that period, the landlord not only has the right to retain the deposit, but there is a significant chance, there is also the possibility actually, that if the landlord does not find someone to replace you, that he tries to sue you for the amount of money of the period left, which can be quite significant. So we always advise caution before leaving very quickly from an apartment. But so far, I do not believe any landlord has sued the person and any tenant for this, but it is a possibility. Regarding what can be deducted, the law leaves it quite open for interpretation. What they say is that as long as the place is left in the original state, except for wear and tear, the landlord cannot claim anything. But if it is not left in its original state, how you find it, except wear and tear again, the landlord can make a claim for anything. We've seen ridiculous claims such as 500 euro to clean an apartment, you know, as you said, for spoons, but everything that was on the inventory. So when you move in, you should have an inventory that is signed, and if the spoons, if stuff like this was not there, he cannot then claim them either. Again, what I always, a common place that we go to and landlords go for disputes is a dispute panel that the housing authority has. If anyone gets a claim from your former landlord or your current landlord on this, we always advise to reach out, because it is similar to a court, right? The decision is enforceable, and you need a proper evidence, you need a proper claim to make. The same thing when making a claim for your deposit. Sometimes we see people writing the claim of their deposit, but keeping it like, I left the place, but I never returned the deposit. While that may be true, we need evidence around it to help build a claim, and we always have people ready to assist in this regard as well. So make sure, yes, a lot of things can be deducted if the landlord is, especially in the beginning when you move in, writing stuff that might not be true when it comes to inventory. It's again why we suggest to have photos when you move in, photos when you move out, or videos of the place, how you left it and how you found it. So then we make sure we have the evidence to counterclaim anything the landlord is saying.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I would like to ask, regarding the membership, is there a minimum period for you to have been a member before you can come forth with the dispute?
No, there is not a minimum period. Some legal subsidies needs a minimum period, but most of the time these legal subsidies are there for illegal evictions, unjust dismissals, very serious cases. That's when those kick in. But those need a period of, I think, 6 months. But the rest, the individual membership help, there's not a minimum period that there needs to be.
Okay, so if you don't have evidences against the landlord, physical evidences against the landlord, but you know people who have lived in this apartment and has faced similar situations, what do you do in that case?
There is the possibility of having witnesses in this when you are claiming, but most of the time they just look at the evidence. It depends on the situation. I think it's a lot of case-by-case basis there. It depends. And it depends on the case a lot, and depends on what the landlord did. So, for example, not returning the deposit is very different from damages, for example. They're very different situations when you do not have evidence.
Okay, so my landlord is known for not returning deposits.
Okay.
I'm sure you know him. I am very sure you know him, because if I mention his name, I'm very sure. So in that case, what do you do? Or what can, because I had wanted to write housing authority, but a pastor here had told me not to, or just hold on. Let's look into the situation. Otherwise, I would have written to them, even copy identity, or even go to them. And I don't want to be confrontational. So in that case, what do you do?
Is it your current landlord or your former landlord?
My former landlord.
Former landlord. So firstly, we need to see the case, how the contract was terminated, whether it was the landlord, whether it was you, because it changes a bit the situation. But in that case, most of the time when it comes to deposit, it is up to the landlord, I think, to prove why he did not return the deposit, because the deposit is seen as in exceptional circumstances that they cannot give it to you back. It is given that they should be returned. So in that case, the evidence needed is less.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure our questions are well answered. Please, for other questions, you can put them together, then we'll forward to them, and we will get responses to them. But I'll just ask this and a couple of. Somebody is asking, if a tenant has lived for
in a place for about 4 years. And on the contract, there is no clause as to wear and tear. All right, so please, we'll take care of the painting when there is mold defacing the house. Who will take care of the painting at that point?
When it comes to mold, it is oftentimes the landlord's responsibility. But it depends on how the mold came about as well. So whether it was the tenant's fault or not, but most of the time it is the landlord's responsibility, especially because that it has been 4 years and a large amount of time has passed, right? Certain maintenance is expected to be done to the place, and it is the landlord's responsibility when it comes to such large and serious issues.
So can I arrest my landlord?
No.
Under what circumstances can I arrest my landlord?
We have landlords who have been arrested most of the time. However, they would have to be very serious cases, where like evictions and forceful evictions most of the time.
So because no, I've never had a bad landlord actually, but for people who have witnessed their bad landlord, I'm thinking on their behalf, maybe we should arrest those landlords. All right. So now, when it comes to agency fee. What is the percentage to be paid?
Usually, the agency fee needs to be a month's rent, and it is split between the landlord and the tenant, usually. So it is around that amount. But again, there's a lot of issues that we see with agents as well, especially demanding deposits before people move in, and then if there are issues and people don't move in, holding those deposits, and a lot of issues on that end as well by agents.
Of the rent, and it is bad. Agents now demand for 50% of the rent and VAT also. So is it right?
It is a large amount.
50% is right?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is very little regulation on this. There is little regulation on this, and that is the amount they are charging, yes.
Thank you for that.
All
right. I don't know, to be sincere, I'm not exact on this. Before, I know that the agency fee is 10% of the rent, 10%. The total rent. And the landlord is still going to pay the agent 10% of the rent. So, which means that's the bonus for the agents. And I, as a tenant, will pay the deposit, which is the same amount as the rent. So, are you now saying, the new policy, that I will be paying the agent 50% and then the deposit?
Yes.
And then what does it comes with the VAT? Because besides the deposit, then there is an 80% VAT.
Yes, exactly.
Added to the 50%. Wow.
And the landlord needs to do the same amount, 50% the bonus instead of 10.
So that's actually how it is right now. 50% plus 80% from both ends. Thank you. Okay. You want to contribute? Do you want to contribute?
Thank you for welcoming us to your congregation. It was a really beautiful celebration. I hope you're having a good Sunday. As Matthew said, we started this about a year ago, and we started it because we're seeing so many workers and tenants that are suffering in their lives, struggling sometimes to make ends meet, to pay rent. And so many people in this country are so hardworking, giving so much of their time, so much effort to work, to be able to afford to live. And a lot of the times, bosses and landlords still continue to exploit more and more. Sometimes they make a mistake, but sometimes they are cruel and they are ruthless. And alone when we face these people, we might feel powerless. It's hard to defend ourselves against someone who controls the place you live, controls the place you work, pays you every month. But when we are part of a community, when we are part of the union, we have a chance to fight back against these people that are taking advantage of us. Why must they, on top of paying so much for rent, try to take hundreds of euros from other places? Why, after working so hard, giving so much time, must they try to avoid giving you the wage that you deserve and that you worked hard for? And it is only if we do not allow them to continue to take advantage of us. We have to stand up and we have to defend ourselves. And we can only do that when we go against them together. Alone, it's very difficult. We have to defend ourselves like brothers and sisters so that we have a chance to stop them. So I hope that we'll be seeing a lot of you in the union, in our meetings, contributing and helping us fight against these people that are exploiting and taking advantage of us and breaking our rights.
That's a good way to round it up. And taking it away is that it is not just about rent that they have come to speak to us about. It's about abusive also at the place of work. You don't have pay slip. You've been working without a pay slip. Those are the things that they're also talking about. You can't be working without a pay slip. You will not have access to anything. So come up with things like that. The number is displayed by the media, and please call them and they will be able to talk to you about it. There are several questions, but we'll put this together and we'll forward it to them. Matthew, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Can we put our hands together for them?
Thank you very much. Let's appreciate them one more time. So in a nutshell, what they are telling us is that it's an organization that is free to all. You can, approach them. It's not hidden in any way. If you want to